Hello, everyone. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Page Chewing Comics and Manga with Steve and Mike. We're going to be doing the series Pick of the Week, or weekly polls. And as many of you know, we're getting back into comics. In other words, we're doing that whole weekly visit to the comic book store and picking up these single issues, actually physically going to a space and using our hands to pick things up. And we decide whether or not we want to continue with comics, whether we really like them and we just say, add these to our weekly pull list, or sometimes we're in the middle, other times we just kind of end it there. We're gonna start off here. We've got we had a few weeks, where we, because of holidays or travel, we missed talking about our weekly comics, but so we've got a pretty large number to cover this time, and I'm going to start off with Hellboy, Giant Robot. I actually read issues 1 and 2, but I'm going to focus really briefly on just kind of issue 1, and then and then talk about issue 2. So, I'm sure many of you know about Hellboy. I'm a fan. I'm still working my way through reading through the back catalog. But the big red guy is back at it. It's like a new story. We actually don't see a lot of Hellboy in this Giant Robot series. But he is kind of linked in some way. I don't know about the technology. I couldn't explain it, but he's linked to this giant robot that can like battle huge monsters. So kind of like a Godzilla vibe, if you would, or kaiju. I would say, the one thing that I guess many Hellboy fans know is Mike Mignola is no longer doing the artwork, but he's still the author. And so, we've got Mike Mignola as the author with Duncan Fegredo, and Dave Stewart are also participating. And I forgot to mention that this is, of course, by Dark Horse Comics. And just to say, I think if you're into Hellboy, I think I would go past the first issue. The first issue did not really do it for me. I didn't know what was going on, and Hellboy is not really, as a character, is not featured much. But as we got into issue 2, I started to get more into what was going on in the story. As I mentioned, he's battling these big monsters, so it's kind of a different take on things. And I think there's only 3 issues, so I might as well stick with it. And I mean, if you're into like creepy crawlies that are the size of skyscrapers, it might be for you. So I think I'm going to I'll complete since it's only 3 issues, I'll definitely continue.
So you're a fan of Hellboy, Mike?
Yes, I've read, I think, 2 of the omnibus. I know there's a lot. I know it's a big world, and there's other characters and BPRD and all of that. And I have to say, I love the Guillermo del Toro films. I'm just a huge fan. So, I couldn't help myself. The cover, one of the covers is pretty cool. You don't really see Hellboy. You see this iron giant type of looking character. It's kind of funky looking.
So I've always been a little bit intimidated by Hellboy. I wasn't sure where to start. So where would you recommend someone who wants to get into Hellboy, but not sure where to begin?
I don't know what the name of it is, but it is. I would start at the beginning with, if you like gothic horror, if you like, because I'm sure you could probably start anywhere, but I would start at the beginning because I really liked it, got into it. I'll see if I can find the name of the big omnibus. I think it has a title, but that it's probably 300 pages or so. But and then you could decide from there, I think.
Okay, cool. Yeah. My initial reaction was always start at the beginning, but then I think, well, maybe the beginning isn't the best place to get an idea. But no, I'm a completionist, so I was a little bit relieved when you said start at the beginning, because I like to start, I like to jump in the middle of things.
Yeah, I think there's so much to read. I think it's massive. So I think I've got a long way to go to get caught up.
Yes. So, so my first one this week was Borealis #1. This is by Dark Horse. Mark Verheiden, Aaron Douglas, and Cliff Richards. I hope I didn't butcher anyone's name. I'll be happy the day that we can get through an episode and I won't butcher anyone's name. So this one, this one was, it had some supernatural elements. It's about a woman who left her hometown and is forced to go back to her hometown after she had been gone to face her past. And we're not really sure what that past is. I was a little bit confused with the timeline of events, but this one has me interested. It's part crime, cop drama, part supernatural. So there was enough in it, even though it was a little bit confusing. It had some funnier moments. It took itself seriously, but it still had some humor, so I can appreciate that. And it wasn't over the top humor. It wasn't the annoying type of humor. It was just enough. It felt like it fit. So I'll check out issue 2 of this one, but it's one of those ones where I'm going to go into issue 2 hoping that things will make more sense as the series progresses, because it didn't make a whole lot of sense. But, it's hard you don't want to know everything with one issue either. So, but yeah, I'll check out issue 2.
Sounds good. I didn't see that one, so might have to check it out too. I'm just going to jump right into the next one. So this came out quite a while ago. I think they're now on issue 4, but I'm going to be talking about Transformers #1 from Image, which is by Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spice. And I can see that this is very popular. I can tell that from what I've heard that this is really making waves. And I got to say, it's the story hasn't changed that much from what I remembered from Transformers, and I have to admit I played with the toy in the 1980s, so it's still to me like a toy first, and I will never get over how somebody broke my police car toy at school. I brought it in anyway. I'm still bitter about that, but one day I'll get over it. I was so proud anyway. So, I guess I can't just it's a beautiful book. And the colors are really vibrant and they pop, and, the characters are getting, they're being developed. And the big twist here, of course, is that it's not the PG rated Transformers that we know, or even PG-13. It takes it a little bit darker. There's more costs and consequences, I think. So I think that's what people could expect if they were interested. And I really would recommend it for anybody that, is into Transformers. Some of them get blown up, they get limbs blown off here, I don't think I'm spoiling anything. I guess for me, even though I do like some of the, nostalgia stuff, it's just not, I guess I just can't get over that it's a big franchise, and I don't know. The story to me is not new, but I think for people that are interested and you're a fan, go for it. I heard that a big crossover with G.I. Joe is coming, so Image is getting into the into this world, I suppose. I probably won't be continuing. I know that there's at least 4 issues out there, and but it's just it's just not for me. But it's a beautiful book, and it's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, I have trouble, like you mentioned, the big franchises. I have trouble getting into those because there's just so much to it. And I think you reach a point where it's like, it's almost like you've had enough. Like it's, it's kind of overdone. Like, let's do something different. But I was more of a fan of the G.I. Joe toys than I was a Transformers toys, though. I don't know if I was a kid.
I think I had a little bit of both, but I definitely opted more for because I think I had like some of the big, some of these, like what was the gun? Megatron? I think I had one of those. It looked like a real gun. Anyway, we'll go into that.
Those are the days. I'm still bitter. I had a Snake Eyes figure and I lost it somewhere and I looked for it for years. I could never find it.
Oh, man.
I'm still bitter about that too. So it's funny how we hold on to that bitterness of those lost toys in our youth.
So, yeah, I think I'm up next once again, so I'll be talking about Geiger Ground Zero, also from Image. This is I read issue 2. I also went back and read issue 1 as well as volume 1 of Geiger. What can I say? It's kind of a superhero story. I guess I didn't expect that. I didn't know what I was getting into. So he's not your typical superhero. It takes place, for those of you that don't know, I didn't know. It takes place not too far in the future and then several decades into the future after some type of World War III event. So kind of a bummer, obviously. Geiger is this character that's kind of like he's kind of like a Walter White character in a way, if you're into that. So that appealed to me. And he, something happens to him that he gets these abilities, right? He gets these powers. He's glowing, And so it's kind of, you can only imagine what could happen with some sort of nuclear apocalyptic event. But that's what really happens in volume 1 and this Geiger Ground Zero. I think there might only be 2 issues. Is his backstory, so we learn more about him, and kind of goes back in time a little bit more to the present day before the big boom. There's a lot more exposition and text. If you kind of got into the first volume, I do think I would recommend this. It does also have Mad Max vibes and even Cormac McCarthy, The Road.
Really?
Steve, you got to read it if you haven't.
It's on the shelf. It's somewhere back there. I forget where. It's there.
It's so good. And I should mention the authors. Jeff Johns is the author for this Ground Zero, as well as Gary Frank. I think it's the same team that did the first volume 1. So one thing I will share that maybe I don't want to spend too much time on it, but we're gearing up for some other big shared universe here. So it's not just going to be Geiger, but also a bunch of other characters that may or may not be called the Unnamed. There is also reference to I think the shared universe, if I'm not mistaken, is called Ghost Machine, or it's like a special company. I'm a little confused, but I won't go into all the other characters, but they are brief. Some of them are mentioned. So I'm not so sure if I'm into that. I don't know what to think about that. But maybe I'll continue with this. And based on what I think, I might pick up some of these other books. I had it in front of me, but one of the characters that's going to be coming out soon is called Redcoat, and he's like a Revolutionary War veteran that comes to the future. I don't know much else about it.
Huh. You know what? Jeff Johns got me back into Green Lantern, which I thought would never happen back, I don't know, in the 2010s with Rebirth and, of course, into Blackest Night. That was a great time. Some really great books. Because who cares about Green Lantern, right? But he made Green Lantern cool. And I know there's a lot of talk around him and the movie stuff. Like, I don't know if you've been into any of that, if you've looked into that stuff, but there's lots of not so great things said about him with the whole DCEU thing. So, but I can't deny that he can write. I mean, he can really write a good book. So whenever he's writing something, for as much of a, you never know what happens in other parts of his life or whatever, but there's no doubt he can write. So there's always on the fence about checking out whatever he does. I think we've talked before about kind of keeping an eye out for creative teams, and he's just one of those names that you see his name and you think it's probably going to be quality. Even if I don't like it, it'll at least be good. Like, it'll be subjectively good.
And I'll just add that, is it Gary Frank? The artwork is fantastic because the facial expressions, the detail, he's just very good at emotion and facial expressions. I wanted to add that as well. So I guess they're a team. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had Geiger on my wish list on Amazon for a little bit just because it looked interesting. So I'll have to, oh, there you go. You have the coffee. I'll have to catch up to you. Well, cool. So, next one for me was Lotus Land #2. This is Derry Van Fulgeist, Keo Felipe, and Patricio Delpeche. I'm sorry for butchering everyone's names, with Boom Studios. The first issue reminded me had a lot like a very Blade Runner type of feel to it. Some corporate intrigue, some it's like dark sci-fi. I'd say it's almost like a detective ex-cop trying to move on, and he gets dragged back into this kind of scandal or this these shenanigans going on. So this one had more intrigue and surprises. Something is just missing for me from the story. I think something is just there's one thing that and I can't put my finger on what it is. I just can't pinpoint exactly what it is. There's just something that's not pulling me in. Like it's fine, but if it just had one more thing, it would just change my whole outlook on it. I'm still on board. I'll still continue with it. But the most interesting part is the main character and his past, and learning more about him and why he is where he is in his life and what's happened before his past. So that's the most intriguing thing about this book. The story, there's just something that, whether I'm missing it, but something just feels off. Like something just doesn't, there's just one thread that would really make this great. And I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's some good surprises in this one. So as you know, I also like the aesthetic, the cyberpunk, Blade Runner type of feel. I really dig that. So I'm on board. I'll still continue with it, but I hope that one little thing we get that from the story.
I wonder if it's not an approach where you're you're going to be hit with a big punch in issue 3 or 4, which we see sometimes. Maybe it's gearing up for something.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. I hear that issue 3 is like the hook to kind of hook people. But yeah, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that's what it is. But there's some good stuff in issue 2. But yeah, there's and the artwork, I think it's good. It's just not the type of art that I normally enjoy. It has like a scratchy. It's not bad. It's just not the type of art that really, catches my eyeballs immediately. So, but with all that said, it's still on my pull list. So, it is what it is. That's good enough for me to continue. So they're doing something right.
Yeah. That's to me, it's in terms of the artwork, it's a great segue to what I'm going to cover here, which is unnatural order. So I wonder if it's the same, because it does have like a scratchy kind of, I don't know what you call it. It's not like the lines are really deep and clear, and it's almost like there's like a mist or something over everything, or light. There's letting light in. So I wish I had studied this a little bit more, but so I wondered if you would go for this aesthetic. But Unnatural Order #2 is from Vault, and it's by Christopher Yost, Val Rodriguez, Dirbla, Kelly, and World Design. That's a letterer. And World Design. Must be, I don't know what that is. An AI? I don't know. Could be. So I don't know what it is about this series, but it's got me, but I could see why people could not get into it, because it is absolutely everything across the board. So you've got your science fiction, you've got your, because I think issue 1 was more of a fantasy feeling, fantasy supernatural, but now we're bringing in science fiction, somewhat time travel or parallel universe elements, and I don't know how it works for me, but it does. We're starting to answer a few more questions about some of the main characters. They're diverse. So the main characters are they're more like real world characters, as I mentioned before, but from different, cobbled together from our past. Some are from the Middle Ages, and we even have a character that's more present day. I don't want to give away everything, but just I'm going to continue with this series. I like it. It's got horror as well. I forgot to mention that, so I don't know how that works for me, but it does. It throws you for a loop here and there as well. And I will just add again about the artwork is that it's very gritty and visceral, like I said, this is one of the ones I read after reading quite a few. So if I still like it, that probably means something. But yeah, I'm pleased with the series.
Well, I think you sold me on it, and I'll see if I can find it.
I wonder if you're going to like the artwork.
As you were talking, I was looking up kind of like almost a preview, and it looks, I can dig it. I think the lettering, I wonder if that's like a hand drawn, or if that's like a service that's used to make it readable. But either way, I think you sold me on it.
Okay.
So.
So I get to go once again here. And so this is also by Boom Studios. We have Pine and Merrimack by Kyle Starks and Fran Gallen, issue #1. So this is not speculative fiction. It's more like the real world, which I don't always go for, and I don't know why. It's but you basically have a husband and wife that are private detectives. They kind of have similar pasts, troubled pasts actually, but I think maybe their relationship brings them together and makes them better people. And so, I mean, the husband is kind of like this big hunky ex-boxer guy. So anyway, it's very stylish. It's beautiful. The very rarely uses actual panels. So a lot of experimentation with kind of the traditional style. So I will say it does do a lot of attempts at jokes and humor, and Yeah, about 50-50. I can see it's not always landing, and then you're like, it's tough. And yeah, so I don't usually go for this kind of stuff, but I really think it would be great for people that like detective. And we're just getting into it. I'll probably continue. I'm not sure. Maybe a little bit on the fence. But yeah, I need to expand my horizons a little bit. So yeah.
Right on. Yeah, the humor is. I think we're similar in that the humor has to be a certain brand of humor for it to work. Otherwise, it's like a turnoff.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think you captured it well before, but I think it shouldn't bring you out of it. It shouldn't bring you out of the story. I don't know what it is, but it's just sometimes it just not working all the time. So anyway,
Yeah. So the next one for me is Batman Gargoyle of Gotham #2. Let me just say, if our pick of the week wasn't one of the best books I've read in a long time, this book would have easily been my pick of the week. So this is by Raphael Grandpa, of course, by DC Comics. So first, I love the artwork. The artwork is, I just love it. I'm in love with it. It's very similar to Frank Quitely. Even if I don't enjoy the book that he's drawing, I'll still want it because I just love the art so much. I just love his style and his aesthetic. The lines almost look like they're shaking, and it sounds like it's disorienting, but it has a very distinct look to it, and I love it. I especially loved back like Batman and Robin, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I guess, when Frank Quitely drew it. I read that series just for his art, but back to Gargoyle of Gotham, it's might be my favorite Batman book in a while. I think I even enjoy this more than I did the New 52 Batman, the Scott Snyder stuff so far. I know that's a bold statement, but so this one, we're exploring Bruce Wayne's past and how it's led him to become Batman, and to have him why is he as violent as he is? Kind of what would compel someone to do this type of work when you're a billionaire? Why would you dress up as a bat and fight criminals? So I think we explore that. We explore was it even his idea to become Batman? Where was that seed planted for him that set him on the path to become Batman? I love what they do with that without getting too spoilery. I just love. There's another plot going on that has some. I had some religious themes, but it has a side of supernatural elements too. But it's done in a not on the nose kind of way. When you're trying to incorporate religion or like cults or devotion or beliefs, and you're trying to play with those themes, it's better to do it subtly, and it's very subtle. It's there, but it's not on the nose. So I appreciate that. This book is it's violent and unforgiving. It's a gritty look at Batman. What kind of person can do it? What would make someone do what he does every day? So I am looking forward to this book being in a hardcover one day so I can put it on my shelf so I can just stare at it because it is awesome. I love this book. It's one of my favorites, by far one of my favorite Batman books. So there's only 2 issues and I don't want to get overboard, but I love the way that they're exploring Batman in a different way. It's not him fighting the villain of the week or thwarting some kind of diabolical plan. It's more an exploration of him, his mindset, and why he is doing the things he's doing when he could be just hanging out in his mansion, being a billionaire, doing whatever he wants. So, yeah, lots of great stuff going on here, and I adore this book. It's great.
Wow, that sounds. I'm so happy to hear that because I need to start picking these up more. I think we're going to talk about it next week, but I did look at the kneel before Zod, and I'm intrigued. I was trying to see if I could find what it looked like online, and I'm going to also, I'm going to see if I can check it out as well. Don't have too many questions, or I mean, you sold me.
Nice, cool. Yeah, I think it's it's hard to tell because it's early. It's only 2 issues in, but if they continue on this path, I think it's going to be a book that we can discuss in depth and we can really dig into. I think on a different, it's not just surface level. So I think if they keep exploring the themes that they're exploring, potentially this could be a book that we can like really dig in deep in and really dig into Batman and his character.
That's so cool. Yeah. So I'm up next, and we might be going the other direction a little bit here, but I'm not sure what drove me to pick this one up, but I'm going to be talking about Packless Zero. So it's one of those where I don't know what that it's not part of the current series. Packless is spelled Paklis. And I should mention it's from Image as well, and it's this is by Dustin Weaver, and I think he does the artwork and the writing. But what we have here actually is about 7 short stories packed into 40 some pages. So you're not really digging into much here, but what I understand is Packless itself is an anthology series. So I think there were several issues in 2017. There was a few issues in 2023. It's ongoing. So I will say I'm intrigued in the series. What maybe didn't work for me is that some of these stories are, as I said, there might be 3 pages long, so you really don't get much, and that's you're taking a big risk here. So there's a lot of kind of background given by Weaver here, where he says, I think it's on the front cover. I wrote or maybe it's at the very back, but he says, I wrote some of these when I was in high school, and you can kind of tell. And I don't know if you want to share that, but that's okay. I think that's something maybe to be proud of because it's excellent artwork. But not everything works, for some of the stories. And actually a few of the ones that I think they were done in the 1990s, they're not bad. One is a character that's like a rat character, like from Art Spiegelman's Mouse, maybe was inspired. And then there's, it would take us a long time to go through everything, but there's other stories that are about more like science fiction type of some superheroes or more of like a detective. There's a police kind of procedural story called Bluebirds, I believe. So all in all, it's fine. I think it's interesting. I think the artwork has so much potential. I'm very curious to what it looks like now. But there was enough stories in here that just didn't really do it for me. I'm really on the fence because I don't think you can judge the series by this. I think it's for people that have already been reading the series, so I would not start here. So I'm thinking I would have to go back a little bit. Like I said, it's anthology, so there might be a story arc that you're not interested in. So I don't know. Kind of a gamble. So anyway, that's probably not something I would recommend unless you already knew the series.
Yeah, I think if you're a fan of the series, I can see. If you're a fan of the author in the series, I can see being excited about something like I wrote this in high school. I was like, oh, I want to read that. But as someone who's not familiar with the series, that would be I'll probably pass on this one. Like, not interested. So it's one of those things where if you're looking forward to it, maybe it'd be fun to see that version of those characters or that world back when he was in high school, like when it, at the inception of the idea, like where the seeds were planted. But
Right.
but now, like for someone who I don't know anything about the series, like pass. Like I'm good.
Yeah, it's a little bit pretentious. I don't, or maybe not the right word. If you're not, because but I don't know much about the author. Anyway, it's not. Yeah, again, yeah, I think it could be, it could work for somebody, but maybe it was a slow week for me. I don't know what it has. A lot of diversity, many different stories, lots of different characters, and that I think that's what appeals to me. Yeah. So the next one was both of us, but did you want to start us off, Steve?
Sure. This is one that we had read. We had last time we decided to wait on this one because of the talk about it together, which is Charred Remains. This is by Anthony Cleveland and Andrea Muddy. This is by Mad Cave Studios. This one was an interesting one. There's a woman that has a childhood experience with a house fire and maybe something tries to, and maybe something else, or maybe something more, tries to find, and she's trying to find out what really happened as an adult. What's happened? So the one thing that stuck out to me on this one was the artwork and the colors. It's very oppressive. It's very, the entire time you read it, it feels like it's bright. It feels like there's a fire on the page. That there's that flame or the light source of a fire. It makes you feel uncomfortable. It feels like the pages are on fire. So for me, I like the setup. I just don't know that there's enough. I don't know if this is a mini series or like a limited series, but I don't know how long they can stretch this idea out, because there's some ideas. There's some things they're kind of, you can see them setting up, but I don't know that there's a whole lot there yet, but maybe they'll expand it. What were your thoughts on this one?
I will comment quickly on the artwork as well. It has also like a watercolor coloring. I noticed, which is different, striking. But I felt, I remembered feeling a little confused midway, but it doesn't surprise me, but it happens with me once in a while, of course. And I think, yeah, there's some kind of there's kind of an arsonist element here. So if that, like if that's your thing, I don't know if that's my thing. Yeah, it didn't really get me wanting to continue per se, but you never know. I could change my mind. The visuals are really impressive. They took a risk with that. It's different. Like you said, Steve, it's different. It's like the pages are on fire. That's really something else. So, yeah.
Yeah, now that you mention it, there are some almost like slasher elements to it. It feels like a slasher, and I'm not a fan of slashers at all. So I'm hoping that there's more to it than just that type of story that they're planning to tell. So, but we'll see.
Okay. So it's another case where I picked number 2, but then I had to go back and get number 1. And Steve, I think you'd covered number 1 in the past. So maybe a month and a half ago or so, maybe 2 months ago. But this is Deviant, number 2 by Tinian the Fourth. His first name is James Tinian the Fourth. Joshua Hickson, Hassan Atzman El Hau, with a few other names of the creative team. And wow, this is talk about it's some similarity to Charred Remains in a way, in that you've got some evil killer type of character. I don't want to go into what you covered for Deviant number 1 too much, but when I started reading it, I was really impressed with how the James Tinian the Fourth set the tone with the dialogue, with the moodiness. Even kind of parodies himself, I think, because one of the characters is a comic book writer. Mm. And that I didn't mind that. I found that to be, and it has some funny moments, but not over the top. Pretty well balanced. And when I started getting into number 2, I realized it's taking place in Milwaukee, or has some partially takes place there. And I learned that James Tinian is from there, and so am I. I grew up there, and we are well known for our serial killers. And this seems to be about a serial killer, but it has a lot more to it. It has a Christmas vibe, like the killer is associated with Christmas in a way, I think there's a lot more to even the title of Deviant, which it has probably a double meaning, in that the main character is gay, and I think people back a long time ago would say that's deviant, and so there's a lot more to the title, and there's there's another character as well that from the past that comes up. I wonder what you thought, but I generally liked it. There's some elements that were very creepy to me, but it's just very well done. So it's a good writing. The artwork can be extremely dark and moody, and doesn't bother me. Yeah, but again, curious what you thought.
Yeah, the first issue I really liked. I liked the artwork. This issue lost me a little bit. I'm not a big fan when authors get too meta and they insert themselves into their books. Stephen King does this a lot. Mm-hmm. There's always a writer. He always inserts himself, and I guess it's fine once in a while. There was you mentioned he talks about the shitty comic book blogger. That hit home a little bit for me. Like, okay, but I'm guessing it was just in fun. So, with all that said, I think I sound like a hypocrite because I just talked about not being into slashers, and this is basically a slasher, but it's also a mystery that they're trying to unravel, and there's also characters being developed, and you're exploring characters. So it's not, even though there is, I guess you could say, like a slasher or a serial killer, that's not really the focus of the book. I mean, it's a big part of the book, but there's so much more to it than just that, because you're finding out more about characters and you're exploring these people. So the last few pages really sucked me right back in. So I am 100% on board for issue 3. But yeah, the first half or so, I started to waver a little bit, like maybe this isn't for me, but it does pick up, and I think it's just when I thought I was out, it's pulled me back in.
Well, one last thing I'll add is it does have a Silence of the Lambs vibe as well, kind of. Yeah, there's things right that it wouldn't normally go for, but yeah, it's somehow I'm also hooked. So do you want to? You could cover the next one since I did this. Sure. I started with this one.
Yeah, this one is Aliens number 2. This is by Declan Shalvey, Andrea Borcato, and Ruth Redmond. This is by Marvel Comics. I keep forgetting Marvel owns or Disney owns the Alien franchise now. It's so weird. This one was it was fine. Nothing really special about it. I mean, it was okay. The aliens seemed pretty vulnerable and not that much of a threat. There was a lot of recycled ideas and events and storylines. As a fan of the franchise, it was neat, but at what point do we go in a new direction with these stories? And, at what point is this series just need a break? Like, as much as I love the aliens and I love the storylines, I love the movies, well, some of them, at what point is it like, let's give it a rest for 5 or 10 years? Like, let's just let it sit for a while. And maybe it needs a break. There is some, I kind of had the feeling like this book has some fan service in it. And as a fan, I think it's neat to notice things like, oh, that's kind of a callback but is that necessarily a good thing when you're depending on fan service to garner interest in the book or in the story you're telling? I don't know. Is that a good or a bad thing? I don't know.
Yeah, I think if we listen to fans too much who are not the artists, it doesn't always go too well. We suck the life out of things. So I had a very similar take on it, and I will just add. I mean, it's a nice looking. It's beautiful looking. There's even two artist teams. One's covering kind of a certain time period, another one's covering another one, which is a kind of, it's going to come up again, I think, in a moment as well. But I will say the action is happening so quickly, and I'm noticing this with a lot of Marvel stuff. I don't know if it's a Marvel thing or what. This isn't a movie. We don't, we can take our time a little bit, maybe. But maybe people feel there's only so many pages, you can't do that. But the other thing I'll say is the xenomorphs seem pretty dumb. Like, they're not that slow from what we know. Like, they're just kind of like, there's too much time to react, I think. Anyway.
Yeah. Too easy to kill. Yeah. Too easily disposed. And they don't seem dangerous at all.
Exactly. You nailed it. Boy. So I probably won't be continuing with that one, unfortunately. And I was also surprised that Marvel owns the franchise. I think you mentioned it earlier, but still sinking in. So this one, I know, Steve, you covered this one in your I think your top 10 for the year.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, I think I agree with you pretty much all the way here.
Wow.
We're talking about Somna, and I guess it's by Distillery. Is that right?
Mm.
By Becky Cloonan and Tula Lotte, with a large team of colorists, letterers, and editors, etc. But I think probably this two-person team is what brings this work, really makes it shine. And it's a big issue. It's much bigger than any comic book. It's kind of glossy. It's beautiful. A little bit more money, and we've got some some fantasy elements. This main character is a young lady, young woman, and it's kind of like taking place in the Salem witch trials period. And so if you're into that kind of folk horror type of thing, it definitely has the horror elements. It definitely has more of a, racy, saucy nature. So definitely for mature audiences. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be classified as erotica or not, but it's definitely on the edge. But I think, Steve, you really captured it really well. I don't want to keep blathering on and on here, but I want to hear more of what you have to say. And then, but one thing I will say that's just amazing is that you kind of like, not at all like Alien 2, but what I mentioned earlier is when you have kind of two different art teams. This is what we have here. And during the dream state, for the main character, it's one artist, and then when it's present day, it's another. It's a totally different look, a whole nother art and another artist, and that's just mesmerizing. I really loved it, and I'm really curious to see where the story goes.
Yeah, this one I was blown away. I didn't know what to expect at all. And it does have some spice in it. And don't read this on public transport. And I think, like you said, Mike, I think it is, I don't know if I've classified as erotica, but if it's not, it's in the neighborhood, I think I'd say. It is not, it's not done for the sake of that. It fits into the story. There's more happening here. So, it didn't, there has that going for it, but all the themes that they're playing with here, all the artwork flows it's so good. You could tell that it was done very carefully, very thoughtfully. There's a lot of time and effort put into it. Just from beginning to end, I just thought it's gorgeous to look at. The story's brilliant. But I like it's part horror, part erotic, part they explore belief, desires, witchcraft, religion, and sin. It's kind of reminding me of the films The Witch and Midsommar are kind of squeezed together. But yeah, it feels very meticulously crafted and thought out. It's tastefully done, but like you said, this is an adult book. And I was blown away with it. I'm keeping an eye on the pre-order for the collected edition on Amazon already, just because it's gorgeous.
Do we know how many volumes there's going to be?
I can check.
I didn't know. That's okay. There's one other movie I would add that you've covered on your film chewing podcast, which is Come True. If you think about it, there's an element there that's similar. Don't want to give that away too much, but the visitor.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I didn't think about that. It looks like the hardcover, which is out in June, is 166 pages. So I think this one was 70 or 80 pages. So it's maybe 2 issues. It doesn't specify on the website, but yeah, it's a gorgeous book.
Yeah. A little bit more than your typical comic book price too, because of the quality. But no, it's I'm looking forward to the next one. I think that about wraps it up. If I'm not mistaken, we've got a few more. I think next week. I'm looking at what's coming next week, and I'm really excited. But I'm not gonna. I'll save it for now. But
yeah, I've been kind of making a list. We talked before we started recording about some of the books that you had read that I had to get to, and the holidays just kind of took it out of me. Just a little bit behind, but yeah, there's going to be. I have a feeling next week is going to be another giant issue, a giant issue for us episode, because there's lots of books I already have written down that I want to read. So yeah, it's going to be a big one again next week.
Yeah. And yeah, so I guess that'll wrap us up for this week, and we hope you can join us next time. You can find me on pagechewing.com. And if you want to comment or join us, please check it out. I know Steve can talk about that in greater detail, much more eloquently than I. Steve, where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me on pagechewing.com is the best place. You could join our forums, like Mike said, and I think we have some plans for books that are coming up to discuss different graphic novels and different series. So we'd love if you can join us for those. Anyone's welcome. Just join up over there. And I do have to approve everyone. So if you do register, give me a little bit of time just to try and keep all the riffraff out and spammers and bots and stuff. So if you do register, give me just a little bit of time to get to you, and I will approve your membership if you're a person and not like a bot.
Great. So I guess we'll talk to you next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.